end up getting that resolved. We're also having another Citizens Police Academy in November, first part of November. This will be my third one. It's been very successful. These classes are filling up quickly. If you want to join us or know of anybody that wants to, we have room right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Rigglesworth first before I give it to the captain and give you a quick update on him before Jeff gets it.
Before the captain goes, every review extra patrols with the Office of Highway Safety Planning. This year, we've always done seatbelt and OWI. This year, we added distracted driving. So, because that is a huge issue. So, we're going to have teams of deputies out looking for people that are on their phones while they're driving. We hired 3 new deputies that started in Delta this week. So, really happy to have 3 new deputies out there. Last week, we had a Narcan saved by one of our deputies who responded to an overdose. Deputy Joe Travis, I keep saying that name because that guy does great things for us, but he got there and was able to administer Narcan before AMS got there. Community Day at Lansing Mall was last weekend. That was awesome. If you got a chance to come out to that, I'm glad you did, because we got to interact with a lot of people. Prosecutor was there. There was many different agencies from not just Eaton County, but the Tri-County area. And really quickly, we had an armed robbery at the Edinburgh gas station a couple weekends ago. About the same time, we had a clown report, which you guys have probably heard a lot about in the media. And we obviously have a finite amount of resources, so we had to put resources on this armed robbery. We had to have also resources go to this clown issue. After investigation, we found it was a hoax. We had a bunch of kids go to a playground, start talking about this clown stuff that's been in the media. One kid says, I got a clown mask back in my closet. I'll go get it, come out and scare them, and act like I'm trying to kidnap them. So please talk to your youngsters and make sure that they don't get involved in this clown nonsense that we got going on, because, again, we have to take resources away from a real armed robbery to go over and deal with the hoax. So anyways, I know we've talked about mental health stuff here many times at these meetings. The greater Lansing area has worked to work better with law enforcement and mental health issues. Captain Jeff Campbell has been working a lot on this, so I'll let him explain the response thing we're going to do.
Good morning. About a year ago, Chief Jankowski from Lansing PD organized a meeting of law enforcement from the Tri-County area and representatives from all across the criminal justice system and community mental health to see if there was support and willingness to create what we call a crisis intervention team for the Tri-County area. And that is a group of what will be specially trained police officers that can respond to any type of call involving mental illness or mental health crisis and co-occurring substance abuse with mental health crisis. It's been about a year in the making, but we finally do have a class scheduled for the end of November. It'll be our first 40-hour class for the first of the crisis intervention team that we're creating for the Tri-County area. I've been sitting on the steering committee to develop that curriculum for the last year, along with Captain Darren Southworth from Lansing PD and a bunch of representatives from CMH and criminal justice agencies. So what that will do is provide a group of officers, and our goal is to train 25% of the patrol force across the Tri-County area. That's the recommended best practice across the country. And that will provide them with a little bit more training in mental health disorders, what the symptoms are, what the side effects of their medications might be, how that interacts with illegal substances. It will give them specific de-escalation tactics to use for particular types of mental illness if we know that we're dealing with a certain particular illness. And it will hopefully reduce our need for use of force in those incidents. And it will also give our officers that are trained direct access to the community mental health system, somebody in that system that they can contact, speak with, talk to about the best way to help that person, and hopefully without the need for taking them to jail if we can avoid that. So that, I think, is a good thing. It kind of started with a recommendation from 2 documents that came out here in the last year or so, and that is the President's Task force report on 21st century policing, and a document called the 30 Guiding Principles on Use of Force from the Police Executive Research Forum. Both of those documents call for this kind of training. So we are working with all of the agencies in the Tri-County area to try to make this happen. We do have several different leaders in this effort. Lansing PD and Eaton County Sheriff's Office are the local law enforcement representatives. We have the National Alliance on Mental Illness. The local Lansing chapter has been heavily involved in this, and of course, community mental health. We are seeking some funding for this. We do have a pending grant application with the federal government that we're waiting to hear back on. We should hear any day on whether we get awarded that grant, but I'm pretty optimistic that we will. We're also seeking private donations to support this effort. It's going to take us about 3 years to train 160 officers across the Tri-County area. You'll see that information that I handed out. Anything that you need to know about where to donate can be found in my letter. You'll see that we were looking for donations by October 1st. I didn't get a chance to update that letter, but we changed our class at the end of November. So we're at about $7,000 so far in private donations. And again, we're going to need to do probably at least 4 classes to get our 160 officers trained. And then probably another class each year to maintain that level of officer availability. So it's being done on a mutual aid basis. So if Eaton County has a couple of crisis intervention team members working, but Lansing PD doesn't, we will send our deputies over there to help them out if there's a need for it, and vice versa. We'll send people anywhere in the Tri-County area if it's needed, and they would do the same for us. So that's kind of why we're trying for that 160 officer, 25%. We'll always have somebody working any shift 24/7 that way. So. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
What's the total funds you need?
Well, the grant that we applied for would be about $160,000. Part of that would go towards reimbursing agencies for backfill overtime so that they can keep enough people on the street but still have people sent to this training. It's a big deal for a lot of agencies to send somebody off the road for a week for this training, so we're trying to make that a little bit of an incentive. If we don't get that grant, we need at least $10,000 to cover our consultant that's going to run our first class for us. And we have contracted with a person out of Kalamazoo that's been running these kinds of programs. It's designed for him to help us run the first class, and then for us local representatives to take over and run the class thereafter. So we need at least $10,000 to cover his fee alone, and then additional money for materials, break type stuff, training materials that we're going to need to put together. This also includes scenario training, so we need to pay some actors, that kind of thing. So we're a minimum of $10,000. We're probably going to be able to do this first class for about $15,000 if we don't get that grant.